The voice you are hearing is artificial. The images you will see are illustrations. But the events discussed in this video are real. They are based on documented geopolitical developments, public statements, official actions, and observable shifts in global power. This channel does not aim to persuade, provoke, or simplify complex realities. Our goal is to analyze, to connect patterns, and to place current events into the broader context of a changing world order. We believe the global system is no longer shaped by a single center of power, but by multiple actors, competing interests, and overlapping spheres of influence. Understanding this transition requires patience, critical thinking, and a willingness to question familiar narratives. We encourage you to reflect, to verify information independently, and to form your own conclusions. This is not a story being told to you. This is a reality unfolding around all of us. Welcome to the multipolar world order. Greenland and the limits of power. For a long time, Greenland existed outside the public imagination. A place of ice, silence, distance. Something remote enough to be politically irrelevant. That illusion is now gone. In early 2026, Greenland returned to the center of global geopolitics, not with explosions or troop movements, but with words. And in geopolitics, words are often the first phase of escalation. Over the past days, statements from Washington reopened an idea many assumed had been buried years ago. The idea that Greenland is not merely allied territory, not just a partner's responsibility, but a strategic asset whose control is framed as a matter of national security. The tone mattered. It was not diplomatic language. It was not legal argumentation. It was strategic necessity rhetoric. Almost immediately, reactions followed. Greenlandic leaders rejected the notion outright. Denmark reaffirmed sovereignty. European voices began discussing scenarios that were once considered unthinkable, including what it would mean if pressure between allies crossed from rhetoric into coercion. At the same time, Moscow entered the conversation, not with credible proposals, but with destabilizing statements, suggestions that Greenland's status could, in theory, be reshaped through external pressure or political manipulation. These remarks were not meant to be realistic. They were meant to blur boundaries, to remind the world that if rules become flexible for one actor, they become flexible for all. This sequence of events matters because escalation does not begin with action. It begins with normalization. To understand why Greenland suddenly feels indispensable, we need to understand what it represents in the modern world. First, geography. Greenland sits between North America and Europe, directly beneath the shortest intercontinental trajectories. In the age of hypersonic weapons, minutes matter, and Greenland sits where minutes can be gained or lost. Modern defense is not about walls. It is about sensors, early warning, tracking, prediction. Greenland is not a border, it is a lens. Second, military integration. For decades, northern Greenland has been quietly embedded into transatlantic defense planning, missile detection, space monitoring, signal intelligence. This infrastructure does not exist to project power outward. It exists to prevent surprise. And in strategic thinking, preventing surprise is survival. Third, climate transformation. As Arctic ice retreats, the region is no longer a frozen buffer. New shipping routes emerge, new logistical calculations appear, and areas once protected by nature become exposed to competition. The Arctic is no longer the edge of the map. It is becoming a corridor. Fourth, resources. Greenland is often portrayed as a vault of rare earths and strategic minerals. The reality is complex. Extraction is slow, politically contested, environmentally sensitive. But geopolitics does not operate on immediate feasibility. It operates on long-term leverage. What might be accessible tomorrow shapes power today. This combination, geography, military infrastructure, climate change, and resource potential, turns Greenland into something dangerous. Not dangerous because it wants power, but because power wants it. And when power wants something badly enough, language begins to change. The recent escalation followed a recognizable pattern. First, framing the issue as national security. Then suggesting inevitability. Then refusing to clearly rule out coercive options. This is not accidental. It is how pressure is applied without crossing legal thresholds. It is how reactions are tested. It is how red lines are measured. The responses were strong, but the damage was already partially done. Because once an idea enters serious discussion, it does not fully disappear again. That leads us to the possible futures now forming around Greenland. One path is stabilization through reaffirmation, clear commitments, stronger Danish and European presence, expanded autonomy for Greenland within existing frameworks. This would lower immediate tensions, but it would not remove the underlying strategic interest. It would only manage it. Another path is quiet strategic absorption. No formal takeover, no flags changed, but deeper military integration, economic leverage through infrastructure and investment, control without ownership. This is how modern power often works: legally clean, politically unequal. A third path is internal fragmentation. Pressure framed as opportunity, promises of investment, security guarantees traded for influence, political divisions amplified from the outside. This is the most destabilizing scenario, because it turns sovereignty into a negotiation. And once sovereignty becomes negotiable, outcomes stop being fully democratic, even if votes still occur. The final path is open confrontation. Not necessarily with soldiers at first, but with sanctions, diplomatic breakdowns, alliance fractures. This is where Greenland becomes more than a territory. It becomes a test of NATO itself. Because NATO is built on a simple assumption: members do not threaten each other. If that assumption erodes, the alliance does not collapse immediately, it hollows out. Trust weakens. Guarantees become conditional. And when that happens, the consequences spread far beyond the Arctic. Eastern Europe watches. The Indo-Pacific watches. Every region where security relies on credibility watches. Other powers understand this very well. China sees the Arctic as long-term strategic space. Russia sees opportunity in Western division. Both know that precedents matter more than intentions. If Greenland can be treated as acquirable, then borders everywhere become provisional. That is the deeper danger unfolding now. Not invasion tomorrow, but normalization today. As of mid-January 2026, nothing irreversible has occurred. No borders crossed, no treaties formally broken, no shots fired. But the escalation curve is visible. Language hardened, reactions sharpened, and assumptions shifted. History teaches a simple lesson. Major geopolitical breakdowns rarely begin with tanks. They begin when certain ideas stop shocking people. Greenland's importance, then, is not only strategic, it is symbolic. It tests whether sovereignty still holds meaning when power finds it inconvenient. And the question quietly being answered right now is this: do rules still constrain the strong, or only the weak? Because how Greenland's situation is handled will echo far beyond the Arctic, long after the ice retreats, long after the headlines fade. That is why Greenland matters, not as a prize, but as a precedent.
Thank you for staying with us through this analysis.
The world is changing. Old balances are breaking down. New centers of power are emerging, and the consequences of today's decisions reach far beyond the headlines. If this video helped you see global events from a different perspective, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss our future analyses. If you are able and willing, you may also support our work through contributions. Your support helps us remain independent and continue producing thoughtful, in-depth content on global power shifts. The multipolar world order is not a distant future. It is the reality we are living in today. We'll see you in the next analysis.